Welcome back. We're still unpacking this discussion of the oil and gas cap that was recently announced by the federal government here in Canada. And joining me again is David Yager and Dan Mcteague. David, one of the biggest complaints that I have seen coming out of this news story is obviously the frustration of Alberta Premier Danielle Smith. It seems that the government was negotiating, maybe there's a better word, you can fill me in, but negotiating in bad faith, because the government was sitting with the provincial government was sitting with the federal government trying to hash out where we can go with this. And when all of a sudden they were blindsided by this announcement, was the federal government negotiating in bad faith?
Um, it's not a negotiation in the classic sense. A negotiation is when you want a mutually agreeable, satisfactory outcome for all parties, and you go back and forth to try to discover the structure that's going to lead to happiness and a positive outcome. What Alberta has been doing for years is explaining exactly what this is all about. Here's the geology, here's the costs, here's the physics, here's the process, here's the capital cost. And none of this seems to have any impact on the decisions of Ottawa. That's why I go back earlier when Guilbeault rolls this out and says, look around the world, no major oil and gas producer is doing what we're doing. No major oil and gas producer is standing up and pledging the impossible at an unknown cost with an unknown outcome, and what can only be called virtue signaling to their ever-declining voter base. There's no other possible explanation than this is pure politics. It's got nothing to do with physics, science, economics, or any of the practical realities that Alberta tries to work on, and the oil and gas producers by nature are restricted because they're all private sector companies. They have to work within the unknown rules of economics and commerce, and it wouldn't appear this government has any interest in doing that.
My goodness. Dan, to scale it back to the average Canadian, I don't work in the oil and gas sector. My family, immediate family, doesn't either. Many Canadians may be watching the show saying, well, how does this impact me, the consumer? How does this new announcement impact the average Canadian?
Well, you shut down the most lucrative industry in the country on emissions, and you actually single out only oil and gas. You don't go after anyone else, and you wind up losing 4% of Alberta's GDP, 1% of the Canadian GDP. That's 1% of our entire economy be thrown out the window. That's worth a loss of about $90 to $100 billion to the Canadian economy. To the Alberta economy over years, $191 billion. It would also lead to significant job loss. It would lead to a divestment from Canada, and it would continue this very, very sad tale of why countries are not coming back to Canada for any reason, and why we have a net exit of a lot of our assets to other countries. It's. I don't want to talk about the great sucking sounds. It was said many years ago, but Canada is basically flushing away its prosperity, and I think Canadians here in Eastern Canada get it. They're starting to realize, hey, things aren't so well. It's not going to be great for our kids. You want to throw away something the world wants to come to buy from us, and the only thing we can sell that is really damn good, and the technology that goes with it, go ahead and do that. But that is a suicide note that we're all engaged in.
I'd like to jump in on that, because one of the things that happened when Trump won in 2016 and early 2017, he put in a very aggressive set of tax measures, both cut the tax rate, accelerated depletion allowances for drilling. And one of all the things that caused a capital exodus in 2017 and the following years, where everybody moved out, all the international companies sold their oil sands, rigs went south, frac spreads went south. Of all the things that caused this outflow of investment, it was the aggressiveness of the Trump fiscal regime and the refusal of the Notley or Trudeau administration to respond to it. Well, it just happened again the other day. That wow. Trump is back, and he's talking about tariffs. Well, if I was in central Canada, I'd be worried. The good news about heavy oil is he's not going to put tariffs on something he doesn't have.